What is going on, everybody? We're back with another mock draft Monday, first round NFL mock draft 2024. And this one, the second edition with certainty of where Chicago is going with the first overall pick. We bring into question where Washington goes the second overall pick. And before I get into this, I believe Washington will draft either Jaden Daniels or Drake May. I'm kind of flip-flopping back and forth between who I think they're going to draft. As of right now, I think it's Jaden Daniels. But there's some reports, there's some rumors that I think make an interesting draft scenario, and that's what we're going to try out on today's mock. So first, there's this report from Yahoo Sports that executives around the NFL think the Commanders could draft JJ McCarthy from Michigan at number 2, which I think would be a big mistake. But anyway, I think JJ McCarthy's being drafted way too high at probably 6 or wherever he ends up going. But that would make for an interesting scenario where New England has a choice between Jaden Daniels and Drake May, and one of those guys slips to 4. And I put that report in coinciding with this report. Raiders Antonio Pierce, head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. I don't know how JJ McCarthy isn't a top 3 quarterback draft prospect. And while I think Antonio Pierce does shoot straight and probably means this relatively intentional, I also think there's a better chance he maybe just try to get JJ McCarthy's draft stock up. And these two reports coming out today make for an intriguing scenario with the Raiders potentially desperately needing a quarterback, right? They have Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew as their 2 quarterback options. I don't know. Let's play out this scenario. I think you see where this is going. So, as I mentioned, I think Chicago's certainly taken Caleb Williams to be their future. I think Caleb Williams goes into a great scenario in Chicago, something I don't think is talked about enough. I saw a report from RG3 saying that, or a video really of RG3 saying that Caleb Williams should do what Eli Manning did and avoid the Chargers, and that Caleb Williams should do that to avoid the Bears. That's absolutely stupid. I know the Bears didn't treat Justin Fields as a franchise quarterback. I don't know that he played well enough to be treated as a franchise quarterback. And you go into a situation with DJ Moore and Keenan Allen and the other pieces they've added, Cole Kmet, and I'm forgetting who their wide receiver 3 is. Darnell Mooney, is that who it is? Um, I'm gonna look at their depth chart just to make sure. And you have DeAndre Swift signing at running back. Listen, I really like where they've gone in the off season, and I don't see where the wide receiver 3 is here on ESPN. That's kind of no, who is it? The extra wide receiver they added. I don't see it here either. Well, anyway, they've added weapons, and that's all you can say, really, to that a team could do. Protect their quarterback, add weapons around him, give him good coaching, and I think the Bears have at least 2 of those 3. We'll see what Matt Eberflus is in his first season with his new franchise quarterback. And so Washington leads us down the scenario where they're going to draft JJ McCarthy in this mock. And like I said, I don't think it's likely, but let's see where this plays out. New England at pick 3. I think if they have their choice between Drake May or Jaden Daniels, they're taking Drake May. That's just the impression I get from reading reports of Gerard Mayo and what he's looking for in his franchise quarterback. I think if they're not happy with whoever slips to them at 3, they may trade out of this pick, but given the 2 options, I think Drake May could be the choice there. And then here we are. Here we are at pick 4 with Arizona, all while they would love Marvin Harrison Jr., having the opportunity to trade, having a history with the Vegas Raiders of trading. Well, I guess the Oakland Raiders when they were there, of trading in the past, and the Raiders having pick 13 and a desperation to move up. I'm not here to build out the package for you. I'm here to tell you that this is the move that's going to happen, and I can't seem to balance this out. This is ridiculous. Okay, there we go. This is obviously not going to be the package. I'm just adding picks to make it work with the trade machine here. But the Vegas Raiders are going to trade up, and it's going to take at least an extra first-round pick, in my opinion. I don't know what more than that. But they're going to get their franchise guy in Jaden Daniels and have him compete for the starting job. Maybe Gardner Minshew wins it. That's probably what they want. And if that's the case, and Jaden Daniels gets into a system that I think could work really well for him. Strong arm, really accurate outside the pocket. He's got speed. He's not Lamar Jackson in terms of speed, but the ability to run is certainly there. Toughness is certainly there, and I think that plays well in Antonio Pierce's locker room. The Chargers at pick 5 probably love this, even though the Raiders are trading up with their division rival and they get their quarterback of the future. They probably love Marvin Harrison Jr. falling to them, and they'd take that 10 times out of 10 times, honestly. And I know Jaden Daniels could end up being a future killer and would obviously be way more valuable than Marvin Harrison Jr., but just because of the position, obviously. But at the end of the day, you get the best pass catcher in the draft. You get the best non-quarterback in the draft, frankly, with the top 4 picks being quarterback. And whether you believe best non-quarterback is a wide receiver or tackle, that's up to you. But with the Chargers trading away all their weapons this offseason or letting them go in the case of Mike Williams, Marvin Harrison Jr. is a guy that they could throw into that offense and get a lot of targets from Justin Herbert and Jim Harbaugh's offense. The Giants at pick 6. Listen, if JJ McCarthy is here, that's an intriguing choice. That's probably where I'd have them going if I'm trying to project. But Malik Neighbors is not a bad consolation prize. You could see them taking Malik Neighbors, high-end wide receiver talent, and then hopping back into the first round to take a guy like Michael Penix or even Bo Nix, or just riding the season out with Daniel Jones in the last year of his deal that they can get out of if he doesn't get hurt, and then moving on next offseason and trying to get a quarterback from there. But I like adding Malik Neighbors to this offense that desperately needs weapons while after losing Saquon Barkley and Darren Waller's status up in the air, frankly. They desperately need another receiver, and that really helps them out. Tennessee, I think as time goes on, I'm leaning more and more that Tennessee is going to take a tackle. And considering the top tackle, Joe Alt's still on the board, I think Tennessee feels good about that choice. You get him to help solidify that offensive line, help protect Will Levis and see if he's a franchise guy. I think you feel good about that. Especially, I mean, they could add a receiver, of course, but you have DeAndre Hopkins. You were very, very aggressive in adding Calvin Ridley this offseason from your division rival Jacksonville Jaguars. I think tackles the play here at the draft. I don't think they end up going another weapon. Atlanta at pick 8. While there's a suggestion here to go Rome Odunze, I don't think they go weapon. I think they go defensive player, especially with Raheem Morris being in charge there now as head coach, former defensive coordinator of the Los Angeles Rams. I think Dallas Turner's a match made in heaven for him and his defense. Be able to feast off the edge. I think that adds another layer to Atlanta's defense that they so desperately need. Chicago at pick 9 probably likes how this draft, played out. But I say that almost every time. Rome Odunze is a guy who I think they're very happy to pair with Caleb Williams. You add Rome Odunze, you add Keenan Allen, and then you already have DJ Moore. I already mentioned Cole Kmet, DeAndre Swift. What a bevy of weapons. That being said, if they went Jared Verse here or Terrion Arnold or Quinyon Mitchell, I wouldn't hate adding a defensive impact player. I would go Jared Verse if that's the case, or even a tackle in Olaf Fashanu if you feel that highly about him. But I can't pass up Rome Odunze and adding another weapon in this offense and protecting Caleb Williams in terms of giving him enough security blankets to get the ball out to. The Jets at pick 10. Listen, the Jets probably would have liked Rome Odunze to fall to them, honestly. Even though they got Mike Williams and they have Garrett Wilson, another wide receiver is certainly a priority. But if you can't get a wide receiver at this pick, you could trade out. You could take Brock Bowers. And in this draft, I'm not going to have them trade because I don't want to, fill the first round with too many trades, although I could easily see it. I could easily see them trading back with a team like Denver to move up to pick 10 and take their franchise quarterback or whoever else. But, I kind of want to see it happen. Am I talking myself into this? Okay, so here's my thought process. Minnesota and Denver are sitting at pick 11 and 12, both of which probably need a quarterback. Minnesota has Sam Darnold. Denver has Brett Rippon, I believe, is their projected to be their franchise or their week 1 starter at this point. Would it be shocking if Denver feels like they want to trade up in front of Minnesota? Give the Jets a second round pick? Jets desperately need a second round pick. I'm going to make it happen. And I don't know if it'll let me do 2 trades because this draft machine is a little funky, but we're going to try it. Just going against what I just said. They don't even have a second round pick to trade. Well, this is disappointing. Aw. Well, this makes it less exciting because I don't think a 4th really gets it done, or a 3rd, frankly. But nonetheless, I'm going to do it anyway. Denver trades up to pick 10. They take their quarterback of the future, and we have 5 quarterbacks going in the top 10 picks, which I think is not likely to happen, but it's fun for the thought experiment. Okay, Minnesota at pick 11. Minnesota probably has the assets to trade up if they were so inclined. Maybe they were competing for that 4th pick to try to trade up with Arizona and get Jaden Daniels if he fell. They didn't do it this time. I think they're in a good spot, though. They can either add Quinyon Mitchell, Terrion Arnold, Jared Verse, an impact defender that they so desperately need. And I know they need a quarterback, obviously, with Kirk Cousins out the door. But You're sitting here, you have pick 23 still. Maybe you get a guy like Bo Nix later in the first, or maybe you trade back in, maybe early in the second to take him, quarterback out of Oregon. You got to get a defensive player here, I think, with the way the draft is sorted out. I think Quinyon Mitchell, really an athletic freak, a guy who's going to be the QB1, CB1 in this draft, QB1, going to be the corner one in this draft. Not only from not only from a pick selection perspective, but also I think he's probably the top talent, and he's certainly risen up the draft boards. Um, as I've called, by the way, on these mock draft episodes. If you've been around long enough to remember that, I appreciate your support. The Jets at pick 12, so they trade back two spots, and they probably feel pretty good about who fell to them. They could go offensive tackle here. You got Tyron Smith, and you got let's call him Marcus Morris. What's his name? Their right tackle, Moses. I'm so bad with names. I've seen his names, Morgan Moses. I didn't see it on my other screen. I promise you, Morgan Moses at right tackle, but both of which are on 1 year deals. So maybe you get a guy like Olu Fashanu and you have him back up these two guys, or Tylese Fuaga out of Oregon State. But in my opinion, you're in a win now mode, and a backup offensive tackle doesn't do that for you. You only got a few years left with Aaron Rodgers. I think you go all in. You get a weapon in Brock Bowers to add to this offense. You recoup potentially a third or fourth, second round pick in this trade back. I like that for the Jets. Next up, the Cardinals at pick 13. They're not in a bad spot here, all things considered. They traded back with the Las Vegas Raiders, and they could be in a scenario where they get one of these top defensive players like Terrion Arnold to help the back end of their defense, and then they come back around and get a weapon like Brian Thomas Jr. or Adonai Mitchell, maybe in the back of the first round with their second pick here, that they got from the Houston Texans. So I'm going to have them taking Terrion Arnold here. A lot of people have him as the corner one in their draft list. And I think if they stick at pick 4 and then wherever they're at, pick 25, something like that, I think they go wide receiver defensive player. But given that they traded back, they probably got another first next year. They needed a lot of talent. Help on this team. This is not a team that's a few pieces away. This is a team that needs a lot of picks to continue to build depth. Adding another first and trading back here and getting the corner first and then the wide receiver later in the round in a very deep wide receiver draft. I don't hate this move for the Cardinals whatsoever. The Saints at pick 14. They probably like Jared Verse slipping to them. They probably like Olu Fashanu slipping to them. So the question is, which one do you want to go with? And I think prioritizing protecting Derek Carr with how much he was hit last year is certainly a priority for Dennis Allen and the Saints regime. So getting Olu Fashanu here, who I think has a likelihood to go significantly earlier than this, I think it's a big win for them. Pick 15 for Indy. More and more as time goes on, I could see Indy taking a wide receiver. Brian Thomas Jr. is certainly tempting. You put him on the opposite side of Michael Pittman Jr. to feel good about those offensive weapons around Anthony Richardson. Obviously, Jonathan Taylor in the backfield too. But Nate Wiggins is an exciting prospect as well to add to that defensive backfield. I'm kind of torn here. I don't think there's anyone else that's really screaming at me. I mean, no. I mean, you could have made an argument for Kool-Aid McKinstry earlier in this offseason. I know a lot of people will make an argument for Cooper DeJean here. I'm gonna go Nate Wiggins. I think the talent's there. I think that's something that Indy could prioritize in just improving this defense and feel like you could get enough out of the offense with Anthony Richardson coming back, and maybe you need to look and add a weapon in next offseason. But in this one, the talent at corner is too hard to pass up. Pick 16 for the Seattle Seahawks. Jared Verse is a lot of fun in Seattle's defense. Mike McDonald coming in. I think that's a fun addition. I mean, he's a guy who I think I wouldn't be shocked if he goes 10, 11, 12, and him slipping to 16, I think is a big win for the Seahawks. Pick 17, the Jacksonville Jaguars. They desperately need wide receiver help after losing Calvin Ridley. I mean, they signed Gabe Davis. And as much as I think this was an overpay, I feel like Jacksonville's convinced that that's solving their wide receiver problem, which I don't think it is. You could add a guy like Brian Thomas Jr., or you could go an impact defender. Byron Murphy is certainly an exciting prospect. Cooper DeJean is certainly exciting as well. There's obviously injury concern with him coming off his injury situation. This is a tough one. I'm gonna go with my gut though. I am gonna go with my gut. And if I had to make a gut pick here, it would be Brian Thomas Jr. Adding a weapon to that offense that looked like it needed weapons last year, and then you took away Calvin Ridley and swapped him for Gabe Davis, which at best is probably a slight downgrade. It's probably more than a slight downgrade. Add another weapon here to help Trevor Lawrence out. I think that's a big win. Cincinnati at pick 18. I mean, they do need help on the defense. They could use another weapon on offense, but having a guy like Tylese Fuaga who they could plug in at right tackle, I think is a big win for them. Slipping all the way to pick 18, I think they'd love that because I could see a scenario where Tylese Fuaga goes as early as pick 10 to the Jets if they feel strongly about getting another tackle. So pick 18 for the Bengals to help protect Joe Burrow. Um, I think that's a big victory pick for them. The Rams at pick 19, they need help all over the defense. With number 99 retiring, I think Byron Murphy could be a decent Aaron Donald replacement. That's obviously not to say he's going to be Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald's one of the greatest defensive players of all time, but he's an impact defender. He's a guy who I really value on that defensive line. And you're losing some equity in the defense by losing your defensive coordinator and one of the greatest defenders of all time. Adding Byron Murphy to that defensive front, a guy who can get to the quarterback, good run stopper as well. I like the pick for them. Pittsburgh at pick 20. It would be really Pittsburgh to just double up on offensive tackles 2 drafts in a row in the first round. Of course, it was, I always get them mixed up. I always want to say Paris Johnson Jr., but that's who the Cardinals drafted. Steelers depth chart because Broderick Jones. I didn't see it yet. Is it Broderick Jones? Am I right? Yes, Broderick Jones, who they're playing at right tackle. You could bring in JC Latham and put him at left tackle. I don't hate that. There's also some buzz that they could move JC Latham inside the team that drafts him. There's also some people out there who think Fontenot or Mims are higher rated than JC Latham on their boards. So could see them going that way. Could see them just settling for an interior player in JPJ or adding an impact defender. I mean, they need help in the secondary. Cooper DeJean aligned alongside of Joey Porter Jr. wouldn't be a shocking pick either. But given kind of the standard, given that they brought in Russell Wilson and they clearly want to improve the offense, I like adding JC Latham to the left side of that line and just kind of fortifying that side, helping the Pittsburgh offense, the ground and pound that they like to rely on. Miami at pick 21 probably was hoping JC Latham fell to them, but I think Troy Fontenot is definitely a great consolation prize. They need help on the offensive line. They need to protect Tua, and that's no secret. I'm not a guy who thinks Tua's injury history is really a concern as much as other people, but you still need to protect him and give him time to throw the ball to those great weapons. So Fontenot is a guy who I feel very good about if I'm the Dolphins picking at pick 21. Philadelphia at 22. Listen, Latu sliding to them is certainly a value. But with the additions made in the offseason, adding a guy like Bryce Huff off the edge, I don't know that they draft another edge, especially when their secondary, I think, desperately needs help. They did add a piece in the offseason, but I think Cooper DeJean could be big for them. I like him. I like adding him to this defense. I think that's exciting. I don't know how I feel about it even after I made the pick, but that's what I went with. Minnesota pick 23. So they already got Quinyon Mitchell to help out the back end of the defense. Could have helped out the front end of the defense with a guy like Jer'Zhan Newton, with a guy like Latu from UCLA. I don't hate either of those picks. You could argue Chop Robinson should be the pick here, and I'd hear that argument. And, oh, geez. I can't pass up Latu, can I? I mean, Chop Robinson certainly has evaluators that think of him much higher than where he's going to end up getting drafted in my mock, but you know what? I'm going to do it. Chop Robinson, welcome to Minnesota. I think that's kind of a risky play here, but like I said, I think it depends on who you talk to. There's a lot of talent evaluators who have Robinson going significantly higher than pick 23. I think I've seen him on mocks going up to 15, 16. So him going here to Minnesota, you add a front edge piece to that defense, and then you have Quinyon Mitchell adding to that defensive backfield, certainly improved because the offense isn't going to help you out. That's for sure. Dallas at pick 24. I think they end up going offensive lineman in some form or another. I mean, they obviously they lost Tyron Smith, but they're moving pieces around there. I don't know what the final shuffle is there. So I mean, I could see Mims, I could see JPJ. I could see Tyler Guyton, honestly. But JPJ is a guy who's a little more versatile. I think he's a guy who'd fit better in Dallas's offensive, line formation. Give him a few more options, considering they're shifting guys around. I think that's the smarter move for them. Green Bay at pick 25. I can see them going Mims here, but Kool-Aid McKinstry is a lot of fun to add to this Green Bay defense. Green Bay's known to like guys with interesting names, a la haha Clinton Dix from a few years ago. Especially in that defense, they both play in the defensive backfield. It's kind of funny. Did haha Clinton Dix go to Alabama too? I don't think he did. Did he? If he did, that's like gotta be too many coincidences to pass up. He did go to Alabama. It's a match made in heaven. It's got to happen. Kool-Aid McKinstry to the Green Bay Packers. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers at pick 20. Green Bay does have a need in the secondary before I continue, obviously. Otherwise, I wouldn't have selected him there. But there's also some fun element to that. Tampa Bay at pick 26. They secured Mike Evans, which makes me think this pick's going to the defense. And Latu slides no more. I think he adds another fun weapon in that defensive front. Allows Todd Bowles to kind of rotate guys in and out. I think that's a lot of fun. Arizona at pick 27. You already got Terrion Arnold at the top of the draft. I mentioned adding a wide receiver back here and getting a guy like A.D. Mitchell to add to the offense. A deep ball threat for Kyler Murray, a red zone target for Kyler Murray. That's a lot of fun. And Arizona trading out, maybe you have a draft situation where they end up with, I don't know. Let's say Kool-Aid McKinstry drops to them, right? They have a draft scenario where they keep their current pick and they take Marvin Harrison Jr. and Kool-Aid McKinstry. Or would you rather get another first round pick and take Quinyon Mitchell and Adonai Mitchell? That's funny. I feel did I say Quinyon Mitchell? I thought they took Quinyon Mitchell. They took Terrion Arnold. Who took Quinyon Mitchell? Was that Indy? I don't remember. We'll see at the end. Oh no, it was Minnesota. That was Minnesota. That would have been funny though, Mitchell and Mitchell. But anyway, Terrion Arnold, top end corner talent, and then you add the wide receiver in the back. I don't hate this. I think this is, it's obviously a worse combination than Marvin Harrison Jr. and maybe if Kool-Aid McKinstry lasted till pick 27, but at the same time, you get another first probably next year for that trade back. So I think it works out well for them. I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Buffalo at pick 28. Let me hop over to Buffalo. Not that it matters because it's going to switch anyway, but I think Johnny Newton's a good pick here for them. As much as I think they could add a wide receiver to replace Gabe Davis's production, and Xavier Worthy could be that guy. Speedster, I think Keon Coleman has a good chance to go in the first round as well. Am I going to pass up Johnny Newton? You know what? I'm going to have to. I think the value here is getting the position that you desperately need help in. And I know you have Stephon Diggs, but losing out on Gabe Davis's production, which I don't believe they replaced very succinctly. I can't remember who they signed. I'm going to look up their depth chart real quick. If there's a signing I'm blanking on, then I will certainly think about pivoting. They brought in Curtis Samuel. Do I feel like Curtis Samuel is enough of a... he's better than Gabe Davis, probably, right? So no, I'm gonna stick with Johnny Newton then. Add an impact player to Sean McDermott's defense. I like that. I like that pick still. Detroit at pick 29 probably hates that happened right in front of them. They probably were hoping Johnny Newton slipped to them. But Darius Robinson out of Missouri is certainly a good consolation prize here. If I'm truthful, probably don't think he ends up going in the first. I think he probably ends up going in the top, the second. This was obviously not a realistic draft, as I mentioned at the start. But at the end of the day, not a bad situation for them. Baltimore pick 30 here. Certainly could use help on the offensive line. They moved on from Morgan Moses trading him to the Jets. They lost out on John Simpson as well. They're starting offensive guard from last season. Adding a guy like Amarius Mims, so you could move around if you needed to. Help protect Lamar Jackson. Give him more time to throw or more time to run. I like that pick for them. San Francisco at pick 31. Either Graham Barton or Tyler Guyton could make sense here. I think Tyler Guyton is a better player straight up. So I think, plug and play him at right tackle and you feel good about the 49ers pick here. And the Chiefs, you get your pick of Ladd McConkey, Keon Coleman, or Xavier Worthy. If I'm picking here for the Chiefs, I'm probably taking Xavier Worthy just because that speed, I think, resembles what they had in Tyreek Hill a few years ago. That's a lot of fun. but I wouldn't hate the argument for Keon Coleman. I don't see the lad McConkey, being up there with those guys, but there's certainly talent evaluators that think so. So, but here I'm going to take Xavier Worthy to get that speed, and I realized I selected a 7-round mock. So pause while I recreate this so I can show a summary. Be right back. All right, we're back. So two big main trades in summary. Vegas moving up to pick 4 because the Washington Commanders took JJ McCarthy, and then Denver traded up 2 spots to pick 12. So that was obviously the shakeup. The top 4 quarterbacks going, but in a unique order: Caleb Williams, JJ McCarthy, Drake May, and Jaden Daniels to the Bears, Commanders, Patriots, and Raiders, respectively. Marvin Harrison Jr. slips to 5 to be a weapon for Josh. I almost said Josh Herbert. Justin Herbert. Malik Neighbors to the Giants, Alt to the Titans. Roma Dunze to the Bears to add a weapon for Caleb Williams. And then the Broncos get their franchise guy in Michael Penix Jr. The Vikings add 2 defensive weapons in Quinyon Mitchell and Chop Robinson. The Cardinals flip-flop their draft, really, from previous mock drafts I've had. They take a corner and then a wide receiver, so they get Terrion Arnold, and then they come back and get Adonai Mitchell. Jets get a weapon in Brock Bowers. Saints help protect the quarterback. Indy adds a corner. Seattle adds another pass rusher. Jacksonville replaces Calvin Ridley with a big body threat in Brian Thomas Jr. Bengals protect the quarterback. Rams rush the quarterback. Pittsburgh relies on the ground and pound. Hopefully Miami can keep Tua upright. Philly adding Cooper DeJean is kind of one of those sneaky picks I like from this draft. Certainly already chimed in on Minnesota. Obviously, impact pieces to the Cowboys and Packers here. Certainly, Latu slipping to Tampa has to have their head coach excited. Todd Bowles excited. Johnny Newton ended up in Buffalo. Has to have Sean McDermott excited. Darius Robinson's probably the most underwhelming of these picks in the first round, but still solid for the Lions. Obviously, the Ravens and the 49ers get impact tackles, and then the Chiefs get their speedy weapon once again in Xavier Worthy. I like the way this draft shook out overall. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you think anything makes sense or doesn't make sense? Obviously, two trades like this is not completely unusual. I don't think it's likely that JJ McCarthy gets taken with the second pick, as I said at the top, but it was an interesting scenario to play out. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you think this is possible? Do you think it makes sense? Do you think the Raiders are the big winners here? I do. That's for sure. Although Arizona, I think, is also a big winner as well. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Thanks for watching this Quick Thoughts episode, this mock draft. Hope you enjoyed. Click subscribe if you haven't already to get more Quick Thoughts content, but also get more mock drafts. I'm trying to have them once per week on Mock Draft Monday. So if you are interested in those mock drafts leading up into the NFL draft, subscribe if you haven't already. I appreciate the support. Thanks for watching this Quick Thoughts episode. Hope you enjoyed. Peace out.